off by Cal Ripken Jr. Last night was still a night for Orioles will not forget. Adley Rutschman in the home run derby and basically in the Oregon natives' home ballpark. Relievers Yanier Cano and Felix Bautista both getting this AL honor when 2 years ago no one saw this coming. Austin Hayes, he was a starter and went 1 for 2 and got that single. Rutschman caught from the 6th inning on. He went 0 for 1. Cano a scoreless 6th inning. Bautista pitched the 8th. Hayes said after it was a dream come true.
I think it was everything I ever imagined. I think just getting to talk with all the guys in the locker room and just see, how normal everybody is, and it's still a baseball locker room. It's still a big league clubhouse. So just getting to share a lot of different moments with different guys from different teams, different positions. That was a really cool part of the weekend too.
With the All-Star Game leaving Seattle, next stop is Arlington in 2024, with 2 years already planned out going to Philly. But 2 years from now, 2025 is wide open. Could Baltimore be getting the All-Star Game again? Only the second time at Camden Yards. The Orioles are on the short list to host, according to Commissioner Rob Manfred. But Atlanta and Toronto also in the mix, with Toronto hosting just once as well. An even longer wait than the O's back in 1991.
Morgan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock tonight, dinosaurs in Maryland, the rare discovery that has scientists talking. And consumer price inflation is at its lowest level in more than 2 years, while many households still don't feel relief.
The Baltimore Police Department releasing body cam video of last month's deadly officer-involved shooting. FOX45 News is analyzing video and police response. Several top prosecutors across the state are raising red flags over Maryland's juvenile justice laws. A closer look at why they're saying their hands are tied. A landmark decision between the United States and Ukraine. What was decided about Ukraine's push to join NATO.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
This was an incident where our officers did an outstanding job of taking an armed, dangerous criminal off the streets.
New video shedding light on an officer-involved shooting. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. That deadly shooting happened near Patterson Park last month. Fox 45's Vincent Hill broke the news when it happened. He joins us live with what that video shows. Vincent?
Yeah, Mary, it happened back on June 29th. Police say they were trying to arrest 40-year-old Daryl Gamble. Now, go ahead and take a look at this video. Gamble can be seen speeding away from officers through a busy residential neighborhood, eventually crashing his car and getting out on foot. Seconds later, Gamble can be seen firing a .40 caliber handgun at police, those officers returning fire. Gamble then discarded the handgun and pulls out what police describe as an AK-47 style rifle. He takes cover behind a parked car and begins to fire again. Gamble is then struck several times by officers who were approaching him from the other end of Milton Avenue. When it was all said and done, almost 100 rounds were fired.
We know there were probably around 40 rounds fired. We have not dissected that down yet. As for the individual, we found, so far, I believe we found 33 casings from his weapon. But again, we're still going through the process of determining the exact amount.
5 police shot in total. Police say Gamble also had a stolen .357 handgun in his bag, which was fully loaded, and a shotgun inside his car. They say Gamble was wanted on drugs and weapons charges. Now, coming up tonight at 10, I spoke with the law enforcement expert that says deadly force was the only option in ending this. For now, we're live in the control room. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
For details on the police shooting, head to foxbaltimore.com. Well, several top prosecutors across the state of Maryland speaking out, saying their hands are tied when it comes to holding juveniles accountable because of new laws. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker has a closer look at their concerns.
It's 2 laws on the books that many state's attorneys across Maryland are taking issue with. They believe it may be contributing to the rise in juvenile violence and making their jobs harder. As juvenile crime spikes across Maryland, the state's top prosecutors are calling for change from the Maryland General Assembly, saying their hands are tied when it comes to making sure young people know the consequences of their criminal actions.
I think without question, over the last several years, the General Assembly has changed a number of the laws that deal with juvenile crime. And I think that's certainly led to some problems.
We reached out to every state's attorney in Maryland with a series of questions, including, do you believe the Maryland General Assembly has made it difficult for your office to hold juveniles accountable for criminal acts? And do you support the Juvenile Justice Reform Act of 2022 and the Child Interrogation Protection Act of 2022? Why or why not? Of the 24 state's attorneys, 9 answered our questions, and all of them agreed the General Assembly has made it more difficult to hold juveniles accountable.
Absolutely.
Including Baltimore County State's Attorney Scott Schellenberger, who takes issue with some parts of the Juvenile Justice Reform Act passed last year.
They know that, nothing's really going to happen to them if they keep their crime in a certain limit of types of crimes. So if they're 10 to 13 and they don't commit a crime of violence, they're not going to get anything. It's going to be very little, if anything, that happens.
While those 13 and under are limited to crimes of violence, a juvenile under 10 cannot be charged. The law also calls for 6 months probation for juveniles who commit adult misdemeanors and 1-year probation for juveniles who commit adult felonies.
That may not be enough time to help them with the things that they need.
The Child Interrogation Protection Act affects the ability of police to question juvenile suspects or witnesses.
So my question in the General Assembly was, what do you do with somebody like Nick Browning? He killed both of his parents. That means the gun we were looking for, if we hadn't been able to interview him, we would have still been out on the street, and we would not have been able to proceed with how we found that gun.
Schellenberger says what really needs to happen is more investment in the juvenile justice system with a focus on early intervention.
So that when we have a 10-year-old who we should be able to charge with theft, we can give that family the resources they need so that I don't have to put them in jail for the rest of their life when they kill somebody at the age of 17. And more importantly, I don't have to sit in a room with a victim's family to explain to them why this 17-year-old killed their loved one.
Advocates of the Juvenile Justice Reform Act argue that criminalizing children does not improve public safety. In Towson, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Well, critics taking issue with the Juvenile Justice Reform Act. It prevents children 13 and under from being charged with most crimes. If a child commits a misdemeanor, the maximum sentence is 6 months probation. If a child commits a felony, the maximum penalty is 1 year probation. Then there's the Child Interrogation Protection Act. It stops law enforcement from speaking with any child until they've spoken with an attorney. Unlike adults, children can't waive the right to speak with an attorney. Critics have called on the governor to call a special session to pass new laws to curb crime. Fox 45 News pressed the governor on that possibility this week.
Yeah, there's no plan to have a special session, and while I'm working closely with the legislature, I'm working closely with local law enforcement and local elected officials, I also know that we don't have to wait for a session in order to address something that is the #1 priority for our administration. We are focused on making sure that we are getting and keeping these violent offenders, repeat violent offenders, off of our streets. We're focusing on making sure we're addressing the issue of trafficking of both guns and drugs into our communities and neighborhoods, and we've got to lift up the profession of law enforcement. You know, we need to make sure that people know that we need to have a strong supply and a strong pipeline for people in law enforcement. So we don't need to call a special session at this time to be able to address those things, and we can work in partnership to be able to make it happen.
Well, 2 weeks ago, we asked if you think the governor should call a special session to combat violent crime. 93% of those who responded at the time said yes. Well, we want you now to join the conversation. Our question of the day remains, should Governor Moore call a special session to combat violent crime? You can vote by going to foxbaltimore.com/vote. And Fox 45 News is making your voice heard. Scan the QR code right there on your screen. It'll take you to our website, where we have put together a list of email addresses and phone numbers for your state senators and delegates, including right there the House Speaker and Senate President. Taking a live look at City Hall, where the City Council Committee is holding a hearing on BGE's installation of external gas regulators. Hundreds of city residents have signed on to a lawsuit against the project, saying the utility company isn't being transparent enough and is doing work on their homes without consent. A judge has stopped the project until at least September. We'll have a full report on the hearing coming up on Fox 45 News at 10. The Anne Arundel County School Board rejects a policy that would have banned so-called political flags in classrooms, including the Pride flag and Black Lives Matter flag. The final vote came this afternoon after weeks of debate. And you can find more on the back and forth on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Now, a Fox 45 News alert in 3, 2, 1.
Following a controversial meeting yesterday, President Biden and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky have come to an agreement that Ukraine will join NATO after their war with Russia ends. Now, it comes just one day after President Zelensky expressed frustration over NATO not providing an official timeline on the country joining the military alliance. President Biden met with the Ukrainian president moments before delivering a keynote speech at a Lithuanian university, with Biden telling Zelensky the United States is doing everything in its power to help Ukraine. Zelensky took to Twitter to say the meeting was meaningful and that once security issues in Ukraine stabilize, that Ukraine will join NATO. The United States has also joined fellow NATO allies today to offer substantial security protections and aid for Ukraine. The Kremlin released a statement surrounding the summit, saying giving Ukraine security guarantees would endanger the future of Europe. Mary?
Kai, thank you. Well, a man was killed in a construction accident along Falls Road this afternoon. Police say that around 2 p.m. they responded to a report of a man being run over by a truck. When officers arrived, they found the man was run over by one of the construction vehicles working on road repairs. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Police say this is an active and ongoing investigation. Well, more than 6 years after a pregnant Baltimore mother went missing, the trial of the man accused of killing her and their unborn child has begun. The jury listening to opening statements today. Akia Eggleston went missing in 2017. The case was eventually ruled a homicide. Last year, police arrested Michael Robertson, the father of her unborn child, and charged him with her murder. The defense argues the state doesn't have proof of a crime. The state is painting a picture of a love triangle that ended in murder, saying Robertson was in a relationship with another woman. Akia's family telling Fox 45 seeing Robertson today was difficult.
Seeing him for the first time after 5 years is a little unsettling, and I think everyone that is here on Akia's behalf probably has the same feeling that we all just want to seek justice.
The state says they plan to call at least 25 witnesses in the case. The trial continues tomorrow. Well, Baltimore police are asking for your help in locating the guardians of this adorable 5-year-old boy. Take a good look at him. Police say this child was found earlier today in the 900 block of West Fayette Street. Anybody with any information on where the child's guardians could be asked to call 911.
Consumer price inflation falling to the lowest level in more than 2 years. I'm Atra El-Nashar with why many households still aren't feeling much relief.
And if you're going to be heading out and about this evening, it looks like nice warm temperatures. Still the air quality not so great, code orange for most of us. 7 p.m. will be at 87, 83 at 9 and 78 at 11. With the low humidity we've been enjoying, it's going by the wayside. Let you know when. My Weather Authority forecast.
More progress on inflation. Consumer prices in June were up 3% from the year before, according to new Labor Department data. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar joins us live from Capitol Hill with a closer look at the numbers impacting all of us. Atra?
Hey, good morning, good evening, Mary. Even though we are seeing this progress on inflation, a lot of Americans aren't feeling that relief. And a new report shows that a lot of people out there would need a lot more before they can feel financially stable.
For American consumers, it's been an exhausting 2 years of soaring prices. Now, inflation is the closest it's been since spring of 2021 to a stable rate of 2%, but there's still a way to go.
What I perceive is that the prices are still going up.
In June, shelter was once again the biggest driver of inflation. Housing costs up 0.4% from May and up 7.8% from June of last year. Among the items driving down the rate of inflation are gas, utilities, used cars, and airfare. But household budgets are still stretched thin. A new Bankrate survey finds Americans on average say they'd need to earn about $233,000 a year to feel secure or comfortable with their finances. Beyond that,
to feel financially rich or financially free, Americans on average feel that they need to earn about $483,000 a year. Looking at data from the Census Bureau, workers in 2021 who were full-time, year-round employed, they're making about $75,000 a year.
Bankrate analyst Sarah Foster says among those in the survey who said they don't feel financially secure, about 2/3 blamed high inflation.
It's becoming increasingly harder for Americans to avoid getting priced out of America.
And that strain, Mary, is expected to show up in back-to-school shopping. Deloitte forecasts that parents will spend on average 10% less than they did last year. And that's the firm's first projected decline in back-to-school shopping in nearly a decade.
Yeah, budgets are tight. Did today's inflation report say anything specific about it, back-to-school shopping and items?
Yeah, it did. And this is where it gets interesting because the items people are probably going out and looking for when they back to school shop, we're talking new kids' clothes, books, those are actually declining. The only category you're seeing a slight increase is boys' apparel. Girls' apparel is down, so maybe your daughter gets a few more new outfits than your son does this year. Shoes, though, for both genders are declining as well, but books are falling. So we are seeing these prices fall. But again, it really shows that people just aren't feeling it. And when you think about where inflation was this time last year, it was at an annual rate of more than 9%. We'd really have to see deflation before you see a true improvement, because anything really now that we're seeing, yes, it's 3% overall, but that's compounded on the price increases that we've already seen.
Yeah, everything is so expensive out there. Audra El-Nashar reporting live for us in D.C. Thank you. Well, scan the QR code to join the national conversation. We want to know, do you blame the government for your current financial situation? So far, I'm just going to get closer to the screen. 67% of voters say yes. You can also head to our website, foxbaltimore.com/vote. Click on the Pulse tab to weigh in.
All right, here we go on the Fox Triple Cast this evening. Looking good on the Toyota Eastern Harbor Skycam, Mile 1 Tascam. Although we do have a code orange air quality alert, Southern Harford County, Cecil County still under a code red air quality alert through the end of the day. And then on the HD radar, our next weather maker, there it is, hanging out to our north with showers and storms. Could be getting here for tomorrow. That'll help air quality eventually. But for now, we do have another day of code orange air quality alerts. This is for tomorrow, up and down the 95 and 97 corridor. So sensitive groups, the very young, the elderly, those with pre-existing respiratory issues, you kind of know the drill. You're going to have to spend some extra time inside once again for tomorrow. Right now, 89 on the Mile 1 Tascam. That's after highs of 93 at BWI this afternoon. Winds out of the west, or rather out of the south-southeast at 8 miles an hour. Humidity not bad at 45%, with the dew points in the mid-60s, but they're gradually beginning to tick up. And you'll feel it tomorrow. 89 now here in Baltimore, 91 at Cockeysville, 91 at Westminster, and 91 at Frederick. Some 80s and 90s as well on the eastern shore. And this is that small change I was talking about, that dew point. It's gradually coming back up. That is that measure of moisture in the air, and it's important because it makes that temperature at 89 feel, yes, more like 91 now here in Baltimore. And some of those heat indices will be downright oppressive by tomorrow, and especially all the way through the weekend. So it's going to be that kind of situation where you step outside and you immediately start sweating once again. Now, the rain and the thunderstorms are to our north. Takes a little bit of time till those descend southbound. But I think by tomorrow afternoon, this weather maker moves in. It's going to take the place of this dry and hot regime that we've been in, and humidity comes up, and so does the risk of some rain. Let's go ahead and take a look at the future scan overnight into early tomorrow morning. Temperatures generally going to be in the 70s to start. By lunchtime, we're rising, yes, into the 90s, low to mid-90s tomorrow afternoon, and there are those showers and storms by 4:45 west of the city, 6:30 here in the city, and everyone's getting them into tomorrow evening. Not great for the afternoon commute. Does not look severe, though. I'll let you know if we have any severe weather in store. My exclusive 10-day forecast in a couple of minutes.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
A thunderstorm with an impressive shelf cloud darkened the skies off the Florida Panhandle Wednesday morning. White Sands National Park on Tuesday featured a downpour in the background of this photo, while the sand in the foreground remained dry. And there was plenty of electricity in this storm over Myrtle Beach this week. It's not easy to catch a dual lightning strike on camera.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
A paint job at one California high school causing controversy. Why students say their school board is trying to cover up several cultural murals. One California high school will be getting a new paint job over the summer, but not everybody agrees the entire campus should be painted over. Some students and teachers are now pushing back to save cultural murals at the school. Sophia Lesios from our Sinclair sister station in Fresno has the story.
This is all about the students and their work and their voice, and they're taking that away from the students.
3 different murals honoring Maya Angelou and Cesar Chavez on the Edison High School campus have been a source of controversy in recent weeks.
The plan is to cover our beautiful student work murals that have been outside of the campus since the tail end of COVID.
But Fresno Unified says that's not entirely true. 2 weeks ago, Fresno Unified School Board met over this topic. While the meeting did get heated at times, the topic of murals and what the school board is going to do with them were even a bit confusing for some of the board members.
By voting on this, we're not just already planning on moving them if there is actually a desire to keep them where they are. Like at that point, it would just be about repainting the entire campus and leaving the murals as is.
Our original intent was to paint the entire front visage on the presumption that we can move the murals interior.
We're really frustrated that it's being done with no input from community, no input from students, from teachers, from parents.
Knowing that these murals have only been here for like 2 years, I feel like that's such a you're dishonoring the people who actually spend time on these murals and that they haven't even graduated yet. I feel like that's just really something wrong.
In a statement to Fox 26, a Fresno Unified spokesperson says it will not be painting over the murals during the summer and will gather input before any final decision. But many teachers and students fear the decision is already made.
You know, they want to paint our school colors that don't even relate to Edison and to cover up our murals. And basically they said we will move or,